Security and data privacy in Europe is a main concern for a majority of enterprise customers. It brings to mind all of the requirements that have been legislated through the EU data privacy directives. The data privacy directives are an overarching requirement throughout the member states of the European Union, and they've taken a state-to-state approach. What that means is each country, each member state, has implemented their own interpretations and their own requirements for the data privacy laws. This creates a unique environment where a cloud provider providing a single service to multi-state has multiple requirements to address. What SuccessFactors has done is looked at this state-to-state requirement and taken the most stringent. We use the German privacy law as the baseline for what we do. We've based our policies on the British standard, same standard that the Germans have adopted because it's the only international standard out there for data privacy. It's British standard 10012. We've also taken the ISO 27002 framework for our security. We've combined both of these to drive out all of the requirements for our program that we implement in our hosted solution that we deliver to our customers. We audit against this. A lot of the problems that we've seen with European data privacy compliance is companies saying, yes, we're Safe Harbor certified, but what is Safe Harbor? Safe Harbor is a requirement that was implemented between the US and the European Union that states companies in the US would address all of the requirements in the European Union member states' data privacy laws, but there's no validation behind it. For the most part, the way the Safe Harbor program works is you go self-certify. It's also the reason that the Article 29 group came out with a ruling last year that stated companies are required, irrespective of Safe Harbor, to validate the controls that are in place by a company that is claiming Safe Harbor. The interpretation became Safe Harbor's not legal. It's not true, it is legal. But the onus is on the customer or the company that controls the data to validate all of their sub-processors, and SuccessFactors would be a sub-processor. We've taken that approach to our delivery and our auditability of our infrastructure. Some of the other things that we see as being main concerns are the Patriot Act. A lot of European customers will come to us and say, well, you're a US company, and the Patriot Act means that the government can just take all of our data. Well, that's incorrect. Patriot Act has a lot of different pieces involved in it, and the piece that affects a company like SuccessFactors is around the ability to investigate terrorist activities. And in the US, it is not permitted to disclose data without a subpoena, warrant, or other writ from a judge. In the US, are we permitted as a cloud provider to voluntarily provide data to a government organization? No, in the US, we're not permitted to do that. There are only two countries in a recent report that we're seeing to have that control. That's the US and Germany. If you host data in the EU, is it protected from the Patriot Act? The answer is no. It's based on the controlling company. So if you were to say, we have a company that has data hosted in Europe, but we're a US company, is the Patriot Act applicable? The answer is yes. There are also items called mutual agreements, mutual treaties for information disclosure between countries. So if a country is investigating a terrorist act, would they come to SuccessFactors to get data on that person? Or would they go to the country of origin and work with their government to execute search and seizure rules? The prevailing understanding is yes, they would. The reality is the investigation of legal or terrorist acts is a requirement within every government. So the reality of HR data being seized in a terrorist investigation is very low. We've always felt that the Patriot Act is not going to be abused. It's not going to be used to seize European customer data and then shared, which under the laws is not permitted. European customers see the transparency in how we manage data. What we do with the data is contractually obligated. We contractually obligate ourselves to be a data processor, not a data controller, and we have no rights or warrants to the data. It always belongs to the customer. We'll only execute what is legally permissible by us under the contract. We've brought forward a defense in depth approach, not only to secure the data, but also to ensure the privacy of the data for our customers. We put safeguards on the servers themselves. It's called host-based intrusion detection. Then there's other questions around third-party access. SuccessFactors has gone through its entire infrastructure, its support infrastructure, and carved out subcontractors versus sub-processors. And this is a delineation that's brought forward from the European Union. A subcontractor is somebody who may do work for us, but they have absolutely zero access to customer data. A sub-processor is somebody who has potential access to customer data. We use a company called Tuscarolta. They provide DBA services for us. They're a sub-processor. And we've sat down and ensured that they're Safe Harbor certified. We have contracts with them that include European model clauses to ensure that we are legally permitted to use them as a sub-processor. And then we go audit them every year. That entire audit program, all of those checks and balances is logged. We log all those changes, all of the actions that happen, and we bring in third-party auditors from the outside that perform an SSAE 16 SOC 2 audit for service providers against us, and then provide the customer with a full 300-page report on the results of that audit. European companies primarily are concerned with where the data gets hosted as well. SuccessFactors has built 2 data centers in the European Union, along with all of the supporting processes. The data centers as well are ISO certified. The SAP data center in Rote is a Tier 4 data center certified. Data center employees never have access to data. In Europe, our data is encrypted on disk, both backups and live data. So if someone were to take a disk out, pull a disk from the environment, the data is encrypted with AES encryption, minimum of 128-bit. So what that gives us is European companies understand data is stored in Europe, data isn't transferred by SuccessFactors out of Europe to be stored or processed elsewhere. Support staff is inside Europe and able to maintain European continuity within the support process. So the 3 things a European customer is going to want to ask is, what is the vendor doing with their data? Who are they giving access to their data? And where are they hosting their data? And the 4th and most important piece is, will that vendor stand up and prove the answers to 1, 2, and 3? And SuccessFactors will.